Welcome back to This Bytes for You. In this video, I'm going to show you from start to finish, from flashing your BIOS to installing Windows 10 and installing all the drivers for your Asus ROG Strix B550-F gaming Wi-Fi motherboard. So let's get started. I've already turned on the machine a little while ago just to take pictures. It wasn't connected to a monitor or anything, so at least I know it gets power, but after that, I don't know what's working, I don't know what's not working. So we'll find out in a second. First thing we're going to do is flash the BIOS. Now, I've already downloaded the BIOS from the website, and I'll show you how to do that once we get back into Windows. But anyway, let's flash her real quick. So now she's turned on, thumb drive's in there in the machine. So let's see what we get on the screen. Okay, that's not bad. Please set up to recover BIOS settings. That's cool. So what we're going to want to do now is go into the BIOS. All right, so we'll just press F1 to enter the BIOS. And in the BIOS, we'll come over here. You can use your mouse. We'll go to Tool, then we'll go to Asus Easy Flash Utility. Then we'll go to our thumb drive, which actually we're already in. And then we'll see here the BIOS I downloaded and extracted the zip into. Yes, I want to read this file. So while this is flashing, we can see here the top piece that has an NVMe SSD, and right below that, another strip that, you know, if you don't know, for both of them, you can't tell they're there, but this is another M.2 SSD. Pretty awesome, the way that they've all put that together. Yeah, I did forget to put a screw in there, but I'll fix that in a little bit. All right, so once you're done, just go ahead, click OK. And in the system rebooting, we're going to be again shown the BIOS screen. So we'll go ahead and hit delete, or actually in this case, F1 to enter the BIOS. All right, so now that we're in the BIOS, just make sure your system date and system time are correct. So now we'll come over to AI Tweaker. We'll go ahead and set the AI Overclocker Tuner to DOCP. DOCP is XMP. What that's going to do, it's going to automatically set up your memory so that you don't have to play with all the timings and the megahertz and everything. But of course, after you know you're stable, you can always go ahead and overclock even with DOCP enabled. So we'll go ahead and yes on that. Spread spectrum, just go ahead, disable that. Performance enhancement, I like to enable that. Memory frequency is 3000. Again, later on, if we wanted to, we can come in here and overclock it and everything, but we're not going to in this video. The FCLK frequency, that's going to be half the speed of your RAM. So we'll go ahead and set that at 1500. Okay, and you notice how that's set automatically because of DOCP. Now we'll come over to advanced. And since this is the first time I've been in this BIOS, I'm doing a little exploration with you guys as well. All right, and yeah, we'll leave that all enabled for now. SATA port enabled. Even though we're not using any of the SATA ports, we'll go ahead and leave that enabled. SATA mode is AHCI, or if you want to enable RAID. I'm gonna go ahead and skip enabling RAID for now, but we could do that later on. Let me know down in the comments below if you'd like a video on RAID. Okay, NV RAID mode enabled. Smart self-test. SMART is actually an acronym. I don't remember what it stood for, but SMART. That's testing your SSD, making sure that everything is good. Once it notices that your SSD or your hard drive is failing, it'll give you a notification sometimes. Now, while the system is on, you can always go ahead and, with what I'm enabling now, you can always plug in a SATA SSD, not an M.2. A regular SATA SSD, which this does have 6 SATA ports. Now, HD audio controller enabled. If you had your own sound card, you would disable that and use your own sound card. Video card is Gen 4. Even though auto would probably pick it up, I like to manually set things. This is the very first M.2 SSD. Nothing here. Then down here, the other M.2 SSD, because of the chipset, the B550 chipset, is on Gen 3. LAN enabled, Wi-Fi controller and Bluetooth controller enabled. If you're not going to use those, you might as well disable them. I like to leave the power off when the lights go out. That way, you know, nothing gets corrupted. We're not going to be doing any overclocking, but that's what all these would be for. And since we don't have RAID, we won't set that up here. Okay, I've gone ahead and replaced the thumb drive that had the BIOS on it with the Windows 10 install. If you're unsure on how to create that thumb drive or how to install Windows 10 separately, I'll leave links down in the description below so you guys can check those out afterwards. Okay, and at this point we can go ahead, save changes and reset, and okay. Okay, now it's booting straight to the Windows thumb drive. I selected 32-bit and 64-bit to be on the thumb drive. Just in case, we're going to go ahead and install 64-bit. Okay, leave everything English. If you're speaking English, of course. Next, install now. I'm not going to put a key on this one. So I'll click I don't have a product key. Then I select whichever version I do have a key for, which will be Pro, or one that you intend to buy a key for later on. Next. Definitely read through all of this. Very important information. I read it all. I accept, and next. Make sure you choose custom. Okay, here we're going to have both of the M.2 SSDs. Drive 0 would be the very first one at the very top, and drive 1 would be the very last one on the bottom. And we select next. This is going to take about 7 minutes or so. So we'll be right back. All right, so then at this point, let's start with the region. So United States for me. US keyboard layout, yes. Skip. Now we'll go ahead and connect to our Wi-Fi. Now, the reason Windows has all these device drivers and everything right when you start off is that's built into that ISO. So they plug in a bunch of drivers and everything to get you ready when you're installing Windows, so that way, even if you don't have the drivers immediately, you can install them later. And I always recommend to install the drivers that your motherboard calls for. Don't ever stick with what Windows gives you. Set up for personal use. Next. I'm going to choose offline account for now. Limited experience. This bytes for you. Skip for now. You could leave this all default or change it as you wish. I'm just going to go ahead and accept. Not right now or ever for me. You may like it. All right, so at this point, we're done installing Windows, we're done flashing the BIOS and configuring the BIOS. So now all we need to do is download all the appropriate drivers. So let me show you how to do that real quick. Okay, we can close all this for now, maybe later. And I'm gonna go ahead and skip that for now because I wanna show you the manual way to do it. Okay, so we open up Edge. All right, and we'll go to asus.com. You can always download Chrome or however, but I'm just gonna go ahead and skip for that right now. Products, go to motherboards, Republic of Gamers. Now here we'll look for the socket AM4, and then it starts sorting things out for us. AMD B550. Okay, and ROG Strix B550 Gaming Wi-Fi. Click on that. Then we'll click on support here. Okay, and then we'll go to drivers and tools. Now, BIOS and firmware, this is where I downloaded the latest BIOS you saw, version 12.16. By the time you see this video, it might be newer. Drivers and tools, and then select your OS, Windows 10 64-bit. Okay, So here we'll download the LAN driver, the Wi-Fi driver, chipset, but we're actually going to download a different one in a second. Audio. We're not connected to the board's VGA. We have our own card, but if you did use the board's VGA, go ahead and download that. Bluetooth and the AI suite, the SATA drivers, but we'll go ahead and download our own as well, and the Armory crate. Now, while all that's downloading, we'll open up another tab and we'll go to AMD.com. We'll go to drivers and support. And then here, since we're using the 550 video card, RX 550 series and 5500 XT, submit. Windows 10 64-bit, and we'll go ahead and download the latest and the greatest. Now, while that's downloading, we'll come back to drivers and support, chipset, AM4 B550, and we'll click submit. Here we'll download the latest and greatest chipset drivers, the latest and greatest AMD RAID installer. Even though we're not in RAID, we are using SATA. All right, and that looks to be all downloaded for me. Yep, it's all downloaded. So at this point, we can go ahead and close this window out. We'll go to downloads. Now, you need to do this in a very specific order. Okay, so the AMD chipset driver will install the chipset first. Like when you build a house, you need to build the frame of the house first. That's the base. Chipset is the base. And while that's doing its thing, I like to disable UAC, that little prompt that asks me yes or no. So just click start, type UAC, and select no, okay, and yes. A lot of people freak out when they see that. They want to have all those prompts. For security, it might be best to leave it enabled. For me, I like to disable it, and I wanted to show you the easy way to disable it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and accept all of this and do install. It says restart required, but you don't restart until this is done. All right, AMD chipset software is installed successfully. Now we click close here, and then we manually restart through here. All right, now we'll come back, after rebooting, we'll come back into downloads. Now we'll install the RAID software. Okay, and now it's telling me that we need to do an update for this to work. So we'll just click start, type update. Let's go to Windows Updates and check for updates. So Windows is going to find, as you can see, and actually, let me click View Optional Updates here, Driver Updates, and I'll go ahead and select everything here because why not? Just to make sure we install everything. Get Windows up to date as much as possible. Even though it's going to install a lot of the drivers that we have here, Windows is always going to have, or Microsoft is always going to have an older driver. So we'll go ahead and do everything Windows says, cool, all that good stuff. When it's done, then we go back and continue installing the regular drivers that we've already downloaded. So since it's done some driver updates for the video card, my capture card isn't working right now. So let me finish this install and I will be right back. Okay, so now that we're back in Windows, I still can't use my capture card, but that's okay. We'll get to that in 1 second. So now we'll go ahead and install the RAID software. And by the way, it asked me about the Armory crate. I canceled it. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Okay, so system's not in RAID, and that's okay. Maybe it said that before and I just didn't see it. So sorry about that. So what I'm going to do now is just extract all of the drivers. You never install them inside of the zip file. And even though I downloaded the chipset, we don't need to use it. Yeah, Armory Crate is okay because that is an executable. So now we're installing everything first, driver-wise, that is on the motherboard. So we'll go with sound. Do yourself a favor, whenever it asks you to restart, restart. All right, so now back in Windows, we go to downloads. At this point, we've installed everything on the motherboard itself. And now let's install the AI suite. Yep, reboot. All right, after a reboot, it's sounding kind of repetitive, right? Let's go ahead, install LAN. This one will not ask you to restart, or it shouldn't at least. Okay, that is a silent install, so it won't bug you. Wi-Fi may not. Looks like another silent install. Perfect. Okay, and now Bluetooth. Perfect. Another silent install. Those are great. You don't have to restart for typically for silent installs. And we've already installed the AI suite. So now we need to install the video drivers. So we'll go ahead and leave this factory reset required. That goes ahead and strips all the old drivers and prepares the OS for a fresh set of drivers. All right, and manually restart or wait 2 minutes. All right, and now when you come back into Windows, it'll complete the driver installation. All right, and hopefully last time, another restart. All right, now that I've disabled the HCP on the video drivers, my capture card's working again. But at this point, now we're done installing the drivers, but there's one thing missing, where it's a second SSD, right? So right now, if I were to come over here, click on File Explorer and go to this PC, we don't see that second M.2. So in order to enable that, just right click on your start button, go to Disk Management. Now if it's a brand new drive, you're going to have to initialize the disk, choose GPT, click OK. So all that does is initialize the drive. You can use it at this point. So just right click where it says unallocated, new simple volume. Next, just leave that default unless you want to partition it. Next, I'll leave that as my D drive and I will call it games. We'll leave it quick format. You don't want to do file and folder compression. Next, and finish. Now within a few seconds, boom, just popped up. That's our drive. And now we have that secondary drive. At this point, how do you know, even though I've told you how to do it, how do you know if it works, right? So if you right click on your start button and click on Device Manager, you notice you don't have 1,000 splats. Now this one should have been the AI driver, but what we'll do is just update driver, search and automatically search Windows Update. And we won't download this one because that's a video driver. Restart now. Now the Intel.net is your network adapter, so it probably found a newer driver. All right, now that we're back in Windows, right click on the start button, device manager, and there we're good. So you always want to make sure your device manager is free of those splats or error messages or warnings or anything. Your device manager is every single component in your machine. If there's a splat, if there's an error or a warning along those lines, chances are you're probably experiencing a lot of issues. That'll help you. It won't resolve everything, but it will help you get everything up and running. So let me know down in the comments. I've gone through this entire portion with you guys to help you from start to finish, so you would not be confused on what to do with your Windows install, your BIOS update, and everything. I've walked you through how to set up everything. Now, mind you, you might have a few different things than I do, but I can always help you down in the comments below. Talking about the comments below, make sure to like and subscribe. That helps me so that I know what you guys are watching, what you guys like, but also it helps me get products like this so that I can make these tutorials and demonstrations for you. But go ahead, comment down in the description below, in the comments below, what you guys think about this entire process, something I may have missed or something you want to see. And then also everything I've downloaded, I will have links in the description down below, as well as where you can find them on the Amazon store. Those are all affiliate links, so they will help me literally a few pennies. But hey, it takes 100 pennies to make $1, right? But anyway, this is Iggy with ThisBytesForYou, helping you get up and running with your Asus B550-F wireless gaming motherboard. Iggy out. See you guys.